Welcome, mothers and others. Today, I am so excited to bring to you three really amazing Texas candidates. Brittney Verdell from House District 65, Kevin Morris from House District 67, and Coach Cam from House District 132. Brittney Verdell, her district covers the north area of Dallas-Fort Worth all the way to south of Denton. She's worked in the Texas child welfare system and wants to continue her lifelong journey of advocacy for Texans. Kevin Morris is, his district covers McKinney and the northwest area of Dallas. He works for a Fortune 500 company, a former Collin County precinct chair, and heavily engaged with his children's extracurricular activities. And he wants to bring compassion and common sense back to the Texas legislature. Happy to hear that. And Coach Cam, his district covers Katy and Cypress, Texas. He works with the Houston Texans and is a leader, public speaker, entrepreneur, and author. He is dedicated to bettering the community through economic empowerment, diversity, and compassion. So welcome to Meet the Candidate today. Thank you. And we're so glad you're here. We are going to go right ahead and we're going to start with Coach Cam. So Coach Cam, how you doing? I saw you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's nice to see you again. Who's this little guy?
So this is Deuce. So Deuce was our primary blessing. He came a day before the primary election. He's my good luck charm.
Oh my goodness. Hi, Deuce.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, he's adorable. Absolutely adorable. So we're going to go right ahead and just hit it with you. We're going to give you your first question. So your bio is really impressive. You have accomplished a lot. And since you moved from Louisiana as a child, it seems like your heart is really dedicated to Houston and your district. So what moved you to run for the House District 132 state representative office?
Yeah, no, it's a pretty funny story, funny and impactful. So as a kid, my favorite class in school was lunch, right? But my second favorite class was history. And so last year, I was sitting on my couch enjoying reading Benjamin Franklin's biography, and I'm a little bit of a history nerd. Was having a really good time, feeling so patriotic. You know, our first Renaissance man, one of our framers, a narrative that gets hijacked and you know, kind of repurposed, a very progressive person. I'm finishing his biography and close my iPhone out and look up at the TV, and it's January 6th. And I went from feeling like a proud American. Again, the word patriot, which gets hijacked, right? That's our word, right? That's not exclusive to any one organization or ideology. So I went from feeling extremely high to extremely low. And so, you know, what I would say is the way that New Yorkers felt on 9/11 is how I felt on January 6th. And so the next day I called the DNC and I said, hey, I'll knock, I'll canvass, I'll call, like, what do you need me to do? Because this can't happen anymore. And they put me in contact with the Texas Democratic Party. And, you know, I had the similar conversation. And just coincidentally, the precinct chair vacancy person asked me, would I run? And I said, hey, if I've got to run and create change, and, you know, I'll walk, I'll crawl, I'll run, I'll do whatever is needed to make sure that this never happens again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of us felt similar, but, you know, I think it takes a special person to decide that's it, I'm running. And we're so glad that you made that decision. So welcome. So now we go to Kevin. Kevin, you mentioned on your campaign site that you develop creative solutions and solve complex problems daily in your career. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of these problems that you solve and how this work has prepared you for a role as a state representative?
Great question, and thank you so much for having me today. I don't like to use sales. I'm an account manager. I work doing business-to-business sales. So I work with end users that have complex projects. They need to reformat certain areas within their office. They have a budget to work within. They need to get all the bells and whistles, but they don't have the money to pay for all the bells and whistles. So really, I work with the customer on one side to make sure that I'm advocating everything that they need. I'm able to provide that for them. But I work with my team, and it's funny, there's so many different back-end departments that we work with at my company in order to get the best thing for the end user. So I take these, I'm representing the customer and my company at the same time. So I'm kind of a liaison between the two. And there's a lot of work that goes into it to make sure ultimately it's something that's profitable for my company, as well as this very satisfied customer. I think that it's prepared me in the sense that it's the same thing for constituents and for the government. Unhappy or happy constituent services. Somebody needs something done. They have a representative that is here for them as a liaison to the government. And I think that just having the people skills and being out on a person-facing job, a front-facing customer service job on a daily basis is something that's really got me prepared for what I'm going to face from constituents who need help, who need to see change, who are very, very involved, and what I can do on the state side of it.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you. We're so glad you're running as well. And it's hard to have that balance and work with when you're dealing with a customer and your own company. So we know that can be very, very challenging, and certainly prepared you for running for office for sure. So, Brittney, we're so glad you're here. The last time I saw Brittney was in Dallas. We met at Dallas at the Texas Democratic Convention, and so it's been a few weeks since I've seen you, but it was great to get to meet actually all three of you there. You guys are awesome. So, your background, Brittney, is one of many minority women who now hold leadership positions in our state. I want to acknowledge that we see your strength and we see your perseverance, but now tell us, what is affecting your district that made you want to run for this office at this point in time?
Absolutely. So what's really affecting my district in particular is education. At this time last year, well, really a lot of times in the school year, our district actually closed down because we had such an influx in COVID that we didn't have enough teachers to actually keep the schools open. And so as a mother of two girls, I have a 4-year-old daughter who just started preschool, and I also have a sixth grader. That really affected myself. It affected my well-being, being a single mom. And I had to stay home with my kids. I had to take off of work. And I just sat in that moment. And I was just like, I know that there are other parents in this district who are being affected by this. I know that our schools are completely underfunded. And it's time that we have someone who, one, is a mother that has children in the district, two, someone who has actually been in the front lines advocating for people all the way from newborn all the way to the geriatric population. And we need that person in the state house to advocate for us on every single vulnerable population and every topic that's needed.
Yeah, amen. We do need those people in office. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
So now we're going to go to Coach Cam again. Coach Cam, on your campaign site, you mentioned a need to move to STEM 2.0. Can you explain to us what STEM 2.0 is and how this benefits students and House District 132? And how you plan to bring this to your students in your district if you were elected?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things that I'm most proud about, and one of the things that I think gives me the confidence that I have the success in winning this seat, is I am a Cy-Fair ISD graduate. So my high school was actually in House District 132. So I've had a chance to watch it grow, evolve. I've watched the Whataburgers pop up. I've watched the synagogues pop up. I've watched all of the uniqueness of the district. And, because of my familiarity with the district, it's stocked full of small businesses. There is no major, when we're short of the energy corridor, there are no, Fortune 500 companies inside of our district. And so we're just chock full of small businesses. And so for as much, as folks don't know the STAR test and there's some things to fix about our education, Cy-Fair and Katy were very fortunate, are amazing school districts, and they do a great job with, STEM education. The vision for STEM 2.0 is to integrate an extra E into STEM so we can begin to teach entrepreneurship in K through 12, right? So when, for those, Kevin, for example, I'm sure can relate to this. When you saw the great resignation, at the beginning of COVID, that was because these kids who were just coming out of school had entrepreneurship and small business in their back pocket. And, I think the way that we fight to make sure that Katy and Cy-Fair ISD take it to the absolute best level, and they're competing to be some of the best schools in the country instead of some of the best schools in the state, is to begin to incorporate entrepreneurship at the K through 12 level. And it's not with teachers, because one thing I can tell you for sure as an educator is teachers have way too much on their plate. The way that I think the incorporation of STEM 2.0 can be effective is by bringing it in during school and after school, by partnering with other local small businesses to begin to teach this curriculum. So, that's my vision. I think that we're good, but as an athlete, I believe, and a coach, I believe in achieving and reaching towards greatness.
Great. Thank you. I have never, you're right. I never even thought of entrepreneurship like that, but I think you make a great point, and we do need to think about education differently. So I really like the point that you made. So thank you so much. All right. So now we go back to Kevin. Kevin, House District 67, the current representative states that he has written legislation in the last session that improved the electric grid and ERCOT. But what we have seen from the current representative, what have you seen from the current representative, and how do you feel that it has harmed Texas?
When I look at the current representative, and I'm not going to mince words here, I see a junior version of Greg Abbott or Ken Paxton or Dan Patrick. I see somebody that is in love with the idea of advancing their political career to the point where they will look the other way and allow constituents to get run over by what the state government does so that they can pursue their best interests. Our current representative does not represent this county. He does not represent his constituents whatsoever. He voted for the bill that would allow electric companies to just say that they weren't prepared to, or that they weren't able to improve the grid, and they fined him $150. He was okay with that. If he truly wanted to do something about this, he had every opportunity to do so. He turned his back on his constituents. He took money from the same PACs that have donated to Abbott, and he just, I think the district as a whole was thrown under the bus. I'm just very unhappy with the way that the state has handled the energy grid. It's something that our grid needs to be fixed. It needs to be capable of standing up to extreme weather, whether it's the hot or the cold. The heat in this summer, asking people starting in May to turn down their thermostats to 78 is just unacceptable. It's 2022. We're supposed to be a leader in the energy world, and these things just make us look silly. And with these current Republicans that just want to follow the lead of the big three in charge, it's just unacceptable. We need better. My constituents are demanding better, and I'm here to give them better.
Great. Thank you. I believe in you. We have to do better, especially for all Texans. We just have to do better. And I know that people in your area have been hit pretty hard also with some of the rolling blackouts this summer too, right?
Yeah.
So that has definitely impacted them as well.
Okay. It's tough, and sorry to keep going on. It's just tough when you live in an area with so many rural homes that are already having a hard time getting broadband. How do people work from home? These are things that are they're being ignored. They're general issues that, as close to Dallas as what we are, with so many homes, the infrastructural problems that we have, and then rolling brownouts, rolling blackouts, it's just unacceptable, and we deserve better.
Yes, yeah, we agree. We do deserve better. Thank you so much. Brittney, you are up next. Brittney, you have experience as an advocate and in policymaking, and you've seen the social work structure in Texas. What have you seen in your career in social work, and what changes would you strive to implement if you are elected?
Well, for me, thank you for that question. Mm-hmm. Everything in the legislative session deals with social work. everything. And that's something that people typically don't realize when we say a social worker. They think, oh, she's going to just provide out resources. She might work for CPS. They kind of give us this stigma of what they think a social worker does. But social workers actually advocate on every single level, whether it's micro, meso, or macro levels. And so once I'm in Austin, because I will get elected, I will be enforcing several laws of legislation, one that deals with mental health. There's a huge mental health crisis throughout the state and also in our district, in my district specifically. Education is a top priority. I'm seeing what's going on throughout the state with Abbott really trying to privatize and segregate and defund the schools. That is not okay. That is not okay. As someone who has graduated from public education and actually pulled myself up from my bootstraps and actually credit a lot of my success to my teachers, it's completely offensive that they're stripping away these programs. And so as a social worker, one, I'm going to bring those voices with me to Austin. It's really important for people to hear personal stories and then make those legislative changes based off of hearing those personal stories. I really feel like our current legislation that we have, they're so out of touch with reality. They're out of touch with the people who are actually voters, and they're privileged, and they're sitting in their privilege, and they're not really advocating for everyone throughout the state. And so as a social worker, I'll be there to remind all of my peers that at the end of the day, the people who vote us in, we need to be representing their voice, not our own, for our own political gain. And we're here for the people.
Yes, it certainly seems like a lot of people in office in Austin have lost their moral compass. I mean, when you go to office and you're supposed to represent a group of people, you're supposed to listen to those people and represent what their needs are and what you're hearing from them. And it just seems like a lot of people get elected to do the bidding of their whoever is lining their pocketbook or their preacher. So that's really very concerning right now. So I would agree with you there on a lot of those things, that social workers are needed on every level in Texas right now. So Coach Cam, you are up next. Your website mentions your desire to bring grants to small businesses across Texas. Those of us that run small businesses have definitely felt the pain of finding, applying, and winning grants. So how do you plan to fund and implement a grant program in Texas?
Yeah, so, my vision, I call it Go Big, Business Innovation Grants. And I think that, there's a few really unique factoids that makes House District 132, I think, so unique. The first one is we're the biggest landmass House District in Harris County, in the Houston area. We have more than 400,000 private acres still for sale. That's one. Two, we have 4 of the 30 fastest growing zip codes in the entire country. Right. So folks are moving out here from LA, from the Bay Area, New York, Chicago, Boston, and Philly. And one of the things I enjoy about, again, being a resident of House District 132 is it's just us small business owners. It's just us. Right. So when you think about innovation, it is very easy to get caught up in Elon Musk and, billionaires going to the moon. That doesn't affect our everyday small business owners and residents. Ultimately, when you think about innovation, it's the local mom and pop donut shop that doesn't have a gluten-free donut or that doesn't have a sugar-free donut, right? And so, again, being a small business owner myself, with no traditional institutional lending, I understand what it means to work and operate a lean startup, one. But two, if we were able to help that donut shop and give them an offering, or give them the opportunity to be able to invest in their business so it can grow, that's a net positive for all of us. The tax or the CPA account or the CPA agency that's going through reams and reams of paper, the small business taqueria that's still spending $500 to $600 a month on paper. Like, why are we still printing paper receipts? Right? It's an easy POS system that, again, that's what true innovation is about. And the way that we do that is simple. We have, number one, we're in a $13 billion surplus in the Texas ledge. We've been very, obviously, prudent with our dollars. But there's $3.9 billion with a B, billion dollars going towards that ridiculous wall down in the valley. And so the dollars are there for us to invest in our small businesses, because our small businesses in Texas have been good to us. They brought us, Igloo. They brought us Yeti. They brought us Tito's.
Yes.
Right. So it is about making those strategic investments so that all of our small businesses can grow, because that's what Texas is about. Whataburger is technically still a small business, and we all love Whataburger.
Oh, absolutely. We all love Whataburger for sure. So yeah, I like those ideas. And I really was very impressed with House District 67 when I was out there a couple of weeks ago. I walk around in House District 67 and I think to myself, gosh, I could live here. It was very impressive just to be in that area of Texas. It was great. So Kevin, your district had a very close race in the 2020 election. What do you think led to a fairly large Democratic push in your district? And how do you plan to capitalize on some of those gains that have happened in your district since 2020?
They say that one of the things I've been hearing a lot lately is that Texas isn't a red state. Texas is a non-voting state. And Collin County falls the same way. Collin County is a non-voting county. The previous candidate in 2020 was able to get a lot of support behind him as far as some different PACs and some nationwide run for something. He was a run for something candidate, and he was able to parlay that into energy and excitement and different email campaigns, social media pushes, amplifying his presence. He was able to drive that into digital and just overall getting his name out there. And I'm working on that exact same strategy. The hard work and the groundwork has been laid, and it's my job right now to capitalize on all that. I'm working on the same strategy, working on getting the backing of some of these PACs to help amplify my voice and to help us get into the far reaches of the county, the rural areas. One of the most interesting things about my district is that over 50% of it has not voted for the incumbent before, because it was redistricted to that extent. And I look at that as a huge area of opportunity. These are voters who maybe in 2020 and 2018 didn't particularly like either candidate, because there have been Democratic seats that we've not run races in those districts previously. So it's a matter of engaging with those voters, getting them excited, letting them know that there is a great candidate to get behind, and just get them out to the polls. And we're having these conversations on a daily basis, and these people are then turning to their friends in the same neighborhoods and having these conversations with them. And we can feel a buzz in the district. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be a buzz going on right now. So let's talk a little bit about that buzz. So Brittney, let me talk to you. So let's all take turns talking about the buzz that's going on right now. So I had a few interviews today, and one of the interviews they wanted to talk about the lead that Greg Abbott has over Beto O'Rourke right now, and they're making it sound like, oh, well, Beto O'Rourke isn't catching up, and I'm like, what are you talking about? We are catching up. So how are you feeling when you're knocking on doors and you're campaigning in your district? How are you feeling about the buzz in your district?
So I feel great about the buzz in my district. The reality is that people are tired of the same things that's been going on. We are in need of change. And when I'm knocking on doors, and specifically those swing doors, because I have to knock on those doors, and I leave with like, listen, I am in fear of what will happen if we have another year of Abbott, if we have another however many of Abbott, his legislation, anything that comes with it. As a social worker, we've seen what he has done to our children, what he's done to our teachers. We need a change. And oftentimes, I don't even need to finish what I'm saying because people are in agreement. They're just like, listen, I typically vote Republican, but this time it has to be something different. It has to be, because the traditional Republican Party is not the Republican Party that they see today. And so now they're all hopping on board. They might not be as loud and proud about it, but as a candidate who's knocking on doors, I hear it face to face. And I think that's something that the polls does not see. As a candidate, we see it when we're out here phone banking, when we're texting our voters, when we're actually in their faces. They understand. And there's been plenty of times where I've gone to events, different Chamber of Commerce events, different types of events just within my district. And I have people come up to me and say, hey, listen, I'm voting for Beto. I'm voting for Brittney. Can you come to my house? Can we have a house party for you and host you? Because we love your messaging and we want to get your message out to others. So we make sure that we make the right decision come November.
Yeah, That's great. That's good to hear. How about you, Coach Cam? What are you hearing in your district? What is the buzz on the ground and where you live?
Yeah. So, so first off, I think that to echo what Brittany said, the one thing I love about our freshman class is we're so unique. We are not the traditional candidate. All of us are servant leaders. We're community based. We live in our community. The guy that I'm about to be doesn't live here, right? So we live in our community and we're just hard workers, right? So I was very fortunate. I won my primary in 90 days. I knocked 4,000 doors myself personally, right? So I knocked 500 doors a week and I have these conversations. I think that the most important thing is, what the over pressing or over leveraging of the GOP has allowed us. Come on, big guy. Come on, big guy. Has given us a fantastic onboarding, right? So again, I'm a girl dad. So even the idea of don't tread on me, right? Don't tread on either one of my daughters. And so when I knock these doors, when I had these conversations about, woman's autonomy, about Uvalde, right? So the first thing I say is, the GOP has overplayed their hand and they've given us an amazing leverage point. But when you have palatable candidates like us, like Beto, it makes it very easy to say, this, not only does GOP no longer align with my values, but this guy just makes sense, right? Most folks know me who aren't politically active. Most folks know me from I'm the guy who kicked the heckle out of the Beto rally a few months ago, right? And so ultimately it's like, will you fight? Will you advocate? Will you do the work? Or will you listen to us? The biggest thing right here when I knock doors. And it's a really exciting thing. It's a lot. We're getting a lot of love for sure when we knock these doors.
Great, thank you so much. So let's talk a little bit about Uvalde and how do you feel Uvalde has influenced the change of the wind basically in Texas right now? So we'll start with Kevin. What are you hearing on the ground, and especially in the rural parts of Texas and in Collin County about what happened in Uvalde?
People are scared. People are terrified that when they send their kids off to school, it's going to be the last time that they see them. People don't want to live in a Texas that's like that. My neighbors I've talked to too many people on the phone during call time who have already left the state, which makes me sad. I've talked to a 9th generation Texan who said that if things don't change, if we don't change the course of the legislative sessions, just the legislature in general, they're considering leaving the state as well. And that's one thing that struck me. I'm a non-native Texan. I've lived here for 14 years. But the first thing that I noticed when I moved to Texas was the incredible pride that every Texan has over their family, their land, everything that anybody does. I've always been struck by the pride. And for a 9th generation Texan to tell me that they are that terrified over policy that may come out in the next session, that they would consider leaving this home of theirs, these deep roots that their family has planted, that to me is tragic. People want to see change, and they realize that it's not far from where they're to a point where they can be represented again and their voices are heard. We just have to finish the job. Democrats have been working hard for years and years and years now. And with this wind, the winds of change, with the energy from Beto's campaign, with with Roe versus Wade being overturned, with Uvalde, they're just giving us so many different areas of opportunity to grow on, and it's our job to capitalize on that. And it's exciting to have the opportunity to potentially change the course of where the state legislature goes, and to be a part of something where the gravity of the situation is not lost on me, is what I'm trying to say. It's immense, and I'm honored to be a part of this and for the opportunity to represent my district.
Great, thank you, Brittany. How has Uvalde influenced in the wind change in your district?
It has influenced it a lot. One of the things that I did personally as a mom and as a candidate, I contacted my school district immediately. And I said, hey, is there any way that you guys can host a town hall for us parents, for the community, partner with the police department, and let us know how our children will be protected? School's going to start soon, and we need to know that our children are safe. And so one of the things that came from a result of that, I can't take all the credit, but when I did attend the school board meeting last week, they had several protective measures in place in regards to protecting our kids. And they ironed out those details. And a few other things that I saw, which was one of the things that I asked my daughter, I said, hey, like, how do you know you're safe at school? Like, is the school doing anything to ensure that, you know to be with an active shooter? Mm-hmm. And she was like, yeah, Mom, we just actually did a drill yesterday. And so when I looked on the PTA page, when I looked on the school page, they actually, shared what they were actually doing. And so while I'm happy that there's protective measures that's being put into place, it really saddens me because we can stop this. Like, we really can. And the thing is that we need to elect people who want to stop it and who is not sitting here for greed to line their campaign pockets. We are here because we are all trying to save Texas. Texas needs saving from everyone who's against it right now. And so it's certainly shaped HD 65, and it's certainly a talking point throughout the district.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Right. I mean, I always tell people that we're not just fighting for Democrats. We're fighting for everyone, all Texans, including Republicans, because we care about their lives as much as we care about our own families' lives. And it's really important to include them and be like, we're including you in the solution. So I like that. So thank you so much. Coach Cam, what are you hearing? How are you all feeling about Uvalde in your House district since the massacre?
So my disposition is probably a little different from Kevin and Brittany. So as a former head coach, athletic director, high school head coach, athletic director, I'm in about 25 education chats, right? From athletic directors from across the state to head coaches to educators. And the response I got was vitriol one, but then there's a vacuum. So if you think about it, our schools are in crisis at this very moment. Katy and Cy-Fair opened up their schools today. And, the number of either long-term subs, the number of short-term subs, and the number of teachers not in the classroom is alarming. And everybody should be concerned, right? As parents, everybody should stay up a little bit at night trying to figure out, how do we put more warm bodies in these classrooms? So the first thing that I got when I began to have these conversations with my peers and colleagues is the same cops and police officers who are trained and take hundreds of hours of training a year, in Uvalde, had a very tough decision to make. And regardless of how you feel like they made it, that's a very tough call to make. I didn't sign up to do that. I didn't sign up to be forced to carry a gun in the classroom. I didn't sign up to do extra training. I signed up to teach and impact and love on kids. So the fact that not only do we have a teacher shortage, but we're nearly on the brink of lawmakers and decision makers forcing those teachers that are in the classroom to be able to carry weapons, our teachers didn't sign up for that. So the response I got was pretty goddamn ticked off. I have a neighbor 2 streets down who just left the teaching trade. And she said to me, look, I'll go get my charter. She was a math teacher. She said, I'll just go get my charter and go be a CPA. I did not sign up to carry a gun. I don't want to have a gun. I don't want to touch a gun. I signed up to teach kids. So, and she was a Cy-Fair ISD educator. So, the takeaway that I got from my colleagues, from the folks in my community and my network is folks are ticked off. And not only did Uvalde hurt, it was also a blaring, especially about like Ted Cruz's response, right? I call him old buddy, right? So you got little buddy and old buddy. So the way that old buddy responded, we're going to have one door. Our closest high school is Pato High School, 4,000 kids. And you're talking about having one door to come in and one door to come out. That's the definition of being a coward. And it's time to get these folks, it's time to get them out of office.
Absolutely. 110%. So let's talk a little bit about education, because we are sort of talking about education. We're talking about education with gun safety and how it's impacting kids in school. But there's so much going on right now in education. So could each of you all just take a couple minutes and tell us about your education platforms and things that you would like us to know about you and your positions on education? So we'll start with Kevin.
Yeah, thank you for asking me. I am incredibly, I'm a huge advocate for our public schools here. We have a very interesting district in that the rural areas, what's good for them might not be what's good for some of the more dense urban areas. Mm-hmm. And that presents a challenge. But at the end of the day, we need to the state needs to step in and fully fund the public schools. They need to reassess the base per capita or per pupil allotment. And they need to step in and fully fund schools. We cannot be relying on rising property taxes anymore. We can't rely on recapture because we don't know where that money goes. Those are things that I see and I hear about in my district. Plano ISD, for instance, they pay $200 million in recapture, but they run at a $20 million deficit. That's unsustainable. We really need to step in. The state needs to finally do what should have been done back in about 2008 when they took all the money out of schools and put that money back into the schools. There's been little bits and pieces, but we've never put back in the effort is what we took out. And that's ultimately what I'm here for, what I represent, and what I want to do at the end of the day is to make sure that we have a slush fund of, I think Coach Camp said around $13 billion with a B. Why can't we take some of that, fund our schools and pay our teachers and end this teacher shortage and guarantee our children a great education?
Yeah. You know why we can't? It's called Republican math. No, it doesn't balance. Republican math is like, here's a big bucket and I'm going to take all of it and I'll give you guys a couple pennies. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Brittney, so can you tell us a little bit about education and your education platform?
Yes. So for me, it's very similar to Kevin. One of my main focuses and priorities once I get into office is to increase the rate and the amount of money that our teachers are paid. There's no way they're able to sustain on the amount of money that they're receiving. They have to pay out of pocket for these school supplies, and they certainly need a stipend. And Texas has the money to do so, to allot teachers stipends to purchase school supplies. Also, for me, I really, as someone who is running in a race where the school district is the largest employer, it's providing that support to the teachers, to the cafeteria staff. At the last school board meeting that I went to, I listened to the head manager of the cafeteria staff, and she was begging for a raise. She was begging for a raise. And she said, can we at least make our jobs at pay somewhat competitive with the other school districts that's around us? That is unacceptable. They are the ones who feed our children when they're hungry. They're often the first times to see our children. And yet we aren't even appreciating everyone in our school system. So it's really about making education, making pay the priority. And then also, like Kevin and Coach Camp said, there's money. For me, let's stop building the wall, because that's not the focus. That's not a priority at all. Our children are a priority. Ensuring that they graduate high school is a priority, whether they go to college or whether they start a business or whether they are ready to work at any type of local company that's around. They need to be prepared for that. And instead, we're focusing on everything else that's a distraction and not making our next generation our priority. So for me, as soon as I get to Austin, one of the first bills that I will be authoring, and hopefully I'm pretty sure Kevin and Coach Cam will be there with me, is to ensure that our teachers get the pay raise that they need. And then also doing things that actually benefit the parents, like free pre-K. My daughter's in pre-K right now. It is $890 per month for her to attend pre-K. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. So Coach Cam, you did mention some things about education a little bit ago. Is there anything else that you would want to highlight on your education policy if you were to win your seat?
Yeah. So once we enjoy the champagne, on November 9th because the champagne is going to be so cold. Like
We're
we're
having
going to
a
have a
party.
really good time.
You know,
We're going to have a
seriously.
party.
Yeah, we're going to
We're
have
going
a
to have
party.
a party. I come from a lineage of educators. My grandmother, too many family members, uncles and cousins to mention. Again, I served as athletic director and head coach at a local high school. The first thing is we need to make sure we take care of our retired teachers, right? The fact that they haven't had a pay increase in their retirement in 13 years is embarrassing. It's completely embarrassing. If my grandmother was still alive today, she would be on a fixed income that would restrict her from being the grandmother I know she would want to be. For those who have grandmothers and grandparents alive, consider yourself blessed. It is, when I think of my grandmother's legacy and the number of people she impacted and the quality of life that she would live today if she were still alive, it's a challenge. So the first thing is we need to make sure that we honor the legacy of teachers and make sure that we get retirement pay right. And the reason that's important is when you choose a vocation, you look at the trajectory of long term, right? You look at what the end looks like. And if the end of being a teacher looks like a roller coaster that has unsure quality of life, we're going to lose those brilliant minds that we're developing in these schools. They're going to choose not to enter into the field. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we 1,000% have to have the courage to fund our public schools. My father is a HISD graduate, and his high school, Jones High School, no longer exists. There are no class reunions for Jones High School and HISD, right? And so where a person in a suburban district says, well, that may not apply to me, Katie Taylor, Katy, Morton Ranch, Maid Creek will be the next Jones if we don't get this right, if we don't pay our teachers, if we don't advocate, give them the resources that they need. There's no other industry in our culture. We don't ask our CPAs, we don't ask the folks who work in the software, who work in the technology industry to foot their bill on what it takes for them to do their job. When you go work at Google, you get handed a basket full of things that you need to go do to be an amazing Google employee. It's time that we advocate and fight for our Texas teachers to make sure they have all the same resources to keep brilliant minds in the classroom so they can go develop more brilliant minds.
Great. We're going to bring up two more topics. Thank you so much. That was great. We're going to bring up two more topics. One of them is going to be women's reproductive rights. And we're going to talk about something that is on everybody's mind right now. Some of you all are in Houston. Coach Cam's in Houston. Your grass is green still, let me tell you. I live in Austin, Texas. You know what I'm growing here? I'm growing straw. Okay? That's what I'm growing. I became a straw farmer this summer. I am an expert at growing straw. And so it's really, really bad here. So I think we're gonna end on women's reproductive rights and your positions on that. But let's talk a little bit about something we should be talking about right now. And that is climate change and what your positions are on climate change and how is climate change affecting the area and the district that you will be representing if you win. So let's go right ahead and we will start with Kevin.
Climate change is very important to me. It's tough to say how, it's not tough to say, it's devastating on this entire district. We're in areas where you're limited in how much you can water. There's a lot of straw lawns out here, I'll say that much. We're dealing with one of the hottest summers in history. It's only going to get worse until we start to do something proactive about it. We can't just continue to turn a blind eye to it and pretend it doesn't exist. We can invest in a green infrastructure. We can create hundreds of jobs. We can improve the economy just by working with wind and solar. Investing in the infrastructure for those, making sure that the energy grid is, as I mentioned before, well regulated, that it works, it is up to speed, that we're not going to have lines freezing in the ground anymore. We have to do these things. We have to invest in the infrastructure, create the jobs that are going to come with them in order to succeed long-term for climate change. Just having come off the topic of education, but our children are depending on us for this. Otherwise, we're going to start to see Food emergencies, we're going to start to see a lot of negative repercussions, and that's not even considering the natural disasters that, are just around the corner. So,
yeah, I mean, we have 2 counties in Texas that are running out of water right now. And are we hearing about this on the news? And what is Greg Abbott's plan for this? I mean, we've heard nothing from him. Today, I did have an interview with someone today, and they were asked me about what's Greg Abbott about. And I just said, he's 2 issues Abbott. He only talks about 2 issues because that's all he got. That's it. His whole basket is 2 issues. However, our basket, we have a lot more on our side, guys. We have a lot more on our side. So I'm excited about that. So let me go right ahead and just move on to Brittney. Brittney, what are you feeling and how are you feeling about climate change in your district?
Well, being a dog mom. So I went from being like just a mom to now a dog mom. And to go outside and my dog steps in the grass and you hear a crunch underneath his feet, that's a problem because the grass is so dry. Climate change is a priority. And it seems like for whatever reason, the legislation is not understanding we have to be proactive instead of reactive. And we're continuously being reactive. We need to take the ball where we have it and push it forward and make sure we stay ahead of everything. Like Kevin said, create those jobs, invest in solar and wind. That's the priority here. And to ignore the fact that it's so hot outside, to ignore the fact that the grid still hasn't been fixed. Like, I don't know how much we have to scream to the clouds, fix the grid, and it's not getting done. Like it really just, it takes me into an emotional space because there are so many candidates, there are so many great ideas, and we are all here to ensure that our future is better for our children. We have to be kind to the world because the world has been kind to us. And so for me, just opening up my electricity bill and seeing that it's $430 and I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, like that just, where does it make sense at? Oh, I guess it makes sense in Texas because the Texas Leg, Greg Abbott, he doesn't care. And so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. All right, Coach Cam, you're up next. How is climate change affecting your House district?
So for me, climate change is personal. So last year on February 16th, my parents who live in the city, who still weren't made complete from Hurricane Harvey, who still had a tarp over their roof. I lost contact with them for about 3 hours. Any parent, any child can relate to, the moment that you want your parent and you want to know that they're okay and you don't know that they're okay. I took action, right? I'm an athlete, I'm a coach, I'm a highly competitive person. So the same day that, I don't know the day that Ted Cruz got caught trying to go to Jamaica or wherever he was going, right? Running away from the fight. Cancun. I put up a GoFundMe. We raised about $4,000 to go help the folks whose lights and water were out. It's one of those things where, if you choose your leaders based upon their words, you end up with Cruz and Abbott and Paxson and the rest of the clown fest. If you choose a candidate based upon their actions, when it was freezing, so take a step back. So it was cute for a minute, right? Like snow, a snowman. Okay, it's really cold. It's really cold. Okay, it's cold. Folks are dying, right? So I think that the same with the insurrection, the same with the freeze. People forget that those are memorial experiences. There are families who will never have family members back because we have ineffective and coward leaders in place. And so for me, it's personal because, again, while Ted Cruz headed to Cancun, I was stepping in and providing resources as I could as a citizen, right? Like I'm not an elected official. I'm just somebody who loves the heck out of Houston, Texas, and can advocate and will advocate however I can.
I love that. I think some of our philosophies here in Mothers Against Greg Abbott is really simple. It's called love your neighbor. It's as simple as can be. If you live your life with that, is like the thing that you live for every day and the rule that you follow, I think you're doing pretty darn good. And we actually had an interview today, and somebody asked me about why I'm supporting Beto work. And I said, it's pretty simple. He showed up. While Cruz went to Cancun and Abbott was in his nice mansion over here in downtown Austin, Beto work showed up. Every single time we needed him, he showed up. And I think it's pretty important to show up. So I love your all's answers. And I love that you are seeing that, that it's important to show up. So that really does mean a lot to us. So thank you all for that. Your last question, and we're just going to let you go, but the last question is going to be on a couple things. If you could just touch on your policies on women's reproductive rights, and then also on your policy and support for the LGBTQ plus community. So we'll start with Kevin.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. These are both issues that really do hit home for me. We can debate certain things about at what point, I don't want to get into the minutia of it. Women should have full, unwavering access to women's reproductive health care rights. That's the first thing that we need to do, is we need to get women their rights back. My wife and I, 4 years ago, experienced a miscarriage. We were about 12 weeks in, and the fact that under SB 8, we would have had to go to another state for her to get routine medical care, for her to get a DNC, because the GOP considers that an abortion is ignorant. It's just people not being educated on facts. People hear the word abortion and they just think of one thing, of the termination of a pregnancy, and that's simply not the case. There's healthcare that is and needs to be a priority. We need to address those. The LGBTQ plus community is a huge priority in my book. My sister Katie, I saw her experience discrimination 20 years ago when she came out to our family as gay, and to see her struggle every single step of the way to get respect and to find a job where she's not going to be discriminated against on a daily basis, to see her struggle to find a role in life where she can feel like herself and be accepted for herself, when all she wants to do is live and love and to be loved. You said a moment ago, if you have compassion for your neighbors and are loving your neighbor, you're doing okay. That's all I want to do for my community, is I want to love my community like I feel that as a non-native Texan that they've loved me. I want to serve my community. I want to bend over backwards to do what I can to make sure that no person feels uncomfortable in their home, their workplace, or their school because of who they are and who they want to love. That's a very, very important issue to me. And my support for the LGBTQ plus community will not end. They're a couple of very important issues to me.
Yes, thank you. How about you, Brittney?
So for me, when it comes to women's reproductive rights, something I recently shared with my team, which no one knew until I recently shared with them, but I actually had a miscarriage within 12 hours of me filing to be the candidate for this seat. And it was such a traumatizing experience, and it was painful, and it was mine. It's something that I dealt with personally. And so I can only imagine being further along in that pregnancy and having the government to tell me no. Like who is the government to come into my doctor's office, to come into my space and tell me that I can't do what's right for my body because of a miscarriage or for whatever other reason people need to have abortions. And so abortion is healthcare. And I really feel like people forget that. And I feel like the name for abortion has been taken and it's been given this negative stigma to it. And people are placing the wrong thoughts on it. The reality is that what happens in someone's doctor's office happens in someone's doctor's office. We need to leave it to the medical professionals. We don't need to insert ourselves into someone else's business in regards to anything with women's reproductive health. It's ours. And it's our husbands, it's our sisters, it's our brothers. It's us coming together, deciding what's best for us individually. In regards to the LGBTQ community, there's no secret that I'm an ally to the LGBTQ community. I have hosted a huge pride soiree that will be on September 3rd here in Dallas. I have famous queens coming to do several sets. I am very active in my community with the Pride LGBTQ population. And so for me, advocacy started when I was younger, when I was advocating for kids that were being bullied, because who are you to bully anyone? Like, not around me, that's not happening. And so I've been an advocate since I was a little girl on what's right. And I really think in Texas, what has been happening is that there's been so much focus on hatred that we can't even come together and thrive and be the great state that we really are. Mm-hmm. We are overshadowed by the Abbotts, the Paxtons, the everyone that's pushing this negative narrative on Texas. But when we flip this state house and when Beto O'Rourke is elected, people will see how great the state of Texas is, because we will be able to show them how we're going to govern with compassion, with love, and with putting people as their priorities.
Great. Thank you. Coach Cam.
So I'll be the first to admit that I have blind spots, right? I'm 6'4", 247. I haven't been bullied a lot, but I've always been a fighter. I've always been an advocate. So I fight for those that I love. I fight for those I care about. So when I hear stories of lack of access, when I hear stories of bullying, those are people I fight for, right? So one of the unique things about being a football player is it's a gladiator sport. Being a lineman, I compete 75 to 100 times within 3 hours. Immensely. And what we're missing in the state house is a fighter. So what I say is 4 words, right? It's 4 words that we hang on as Texans. The first one is don't tread on me. You're not going to tread on either one of my daughters. And if you do, come see me first. And when it comes to being an advocate for the community, as Brittany shared, as Kevin shared, one of the toughest things that I experienced was my now sister. We were FaceTiming about a year ago, about a year and a half ago, and I watched her be attacked, and it was one of the toughest. I've never felt more selfless in my life. Again, nobody's ever bullied me, right? So I can't say that I know what it feels like to be attacked, but I know what it feels like to advocate and fight for those I care about. And I also, due to that experience, know what it feels like to be selfless and helpless when it comes to being in position to advocate for those you care about. So for me, Paxton, come see me, bro. Abbott, come see me.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz, come see me. Like if you want to bully and advocate, if you want to bully and ignore those people, have that same energy when we have that conversation.
Yeah.
And if you aren't willing to do that, then let's love. Let's lead with love.
Yeah. I always say to Dan Patrick, quit projecting. We all know you need therapy. I mean, we all just do, right? I mean, that the way he picks on those poor, trans kids. I mean, that's his own thing. That's his own thing going on there. I mean, that man needs some serious help. He needs to hire a shrink because he has some issues. That's for sure. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. And I had the pleasure a couple of weeks ago, I ran into Coach Cam in Katy, Texas. I was there for the TDW retreat. And I showed Cam the ad. It was actually a very early ad of the ad that we just put out on Monday. I don't know if you all saw the ad. It's called First Day of School. And we just put it out, and it just is about gun violence in school. And if you get a chance, please, elevate it if you're able to. But Coach Cam I want to just say something. I want to compliment you guys because, first of all, I met all of you all in Dallas, and you were so impressive. And then I just couldn't wait to have this webinar with you. I've been looking forward to it all week. And then when I ran into Coach Cam and Katy, I was so excited to see him because I brought my special needs son with me. And Coach Cam was so awesome with my son Curtis, and Curtis was just glowing and talking about Coach Cam after he left. And it was a great experience to see my special needs son really take to Coach Cam, and that just felt really great. But also Coach Cam gave me a compliment that I have thought of every single day since I saw him. He said, he just said, like, there are people that are like thermometers, and then there's people that are thermostats. I think that was it. Was that it, Coach Cam? And thermostats change the temperature. And he told me, Nancy, you changed the temperature. And honestly, I just want to say I've been hanging on to that. And I'm sure Coach Cam could probably tell us the exact term that he told me in a second. But sometimes we hang on to things that people tell us, right? They get us through the day. They can be huge things. They can be small things. A few weeks ago, I had Heather Cox Richardson told me that I was like an acorn, and great oak trees, really strong oak trees grow from acorns. And I hung on to that one for a few weeks. And then Coach Cam gave me this really nice compliment, and I also hung on to that for a few weeks. So I wanted to see, Coach Cam, can you tell us like the exact quote that you told me? Because I thought that was great. And I want to leave this webinar with some wise words and telling everybody out here who's with us today on the webinar, everyone in Mothers Against Greg Abbott, I want you all to know this. We need to change the temperature. Okay. I want you guys to listen to Coach Cam's words. I want you to breathe them in and breathe them out. And then we're going to go out there and kick some ass. All right. So that's our job. Right. So I'm turning it over to Coach Cam.
So one of the things that, so thank you. It was this exchange of energy. Right. But one of the unique advantages that I have is I'm a coach. Right. So one of the toughest things to do as a coach is to make a cut. And when you decide who makes varsity, who makes JV, who makes sophomore, freshman, whatever, the people who end up making that up team are the people you can't take out of the game. And those are the people who change the temperature. And so those words I was sharing with you, Nancy, is, there are a lot of thermometers in this space. And again, all of us are myself, Brittany, Kevin, we're all relatively first-time candidates. We're all new to this space. The learning curve is immense. There are a lot of thermometers. Folks tell you what the temperature is. I know what the temperature is. It's 83 days until victory day for all three of us. I know what the temperature is. But there are a handful of kids, there are a handful of athletes that you just can't take out of the game because they change the temperature. And changing the temperature is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable when you change the temperature up or down. And so Nancy, Michelle, the entire team, the squad, I'm so thankful for the work you guys have done, for the folks here in Katy, for the folks in Cypress, for the folks in Denton, for the folks in Plano, because one thing I know as a coach is if you want change, piss somebody's mom off. I can tell you that firsthand. If you want change in a program, if you want change, upset somebody's mama. So what Ted Cruz, what old buddy, what little buddy has done is they create this social movement because they forced our hands. So what we have in MAGA the Good, is we have a handful of thermometers. We have a handful of thermostats, that are changing the temperature across the country, but across the state and across every single pocket. And so what I said to Nancy in closing was, I know that being a thermometer is highly uncomfortable because in every single room that you're in, you're raising the temperature and you're making it just a little bit uncomfortable. But we all need you to serve that role. We all need you to fit in that gap because that's how we move forward. That's how Deuce, who you saw earlier, that's how my other two daughters stay safe. That's how we fight for reproductive rights. That's how we keep our schools being some of the best in the country. That's how we keep our economy exactly what it is. It's by being thermometers and raising the temperature. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you on behalf of all three of us for having us. Thank you for your advocacy. If you haven't already, there's opportunities on all of our websites to block walk, to canvas, to plant a seed into our campaigns. But to you directly, Nancy, thank you for being a thermometer. I know the challenge. I know the struggle. I know the burden. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. If you guys we're going to wrap up, but can you tell us each really, really quick, where can we support you? Where do you need support? Where can we find you on all the social medias? We did post all the information on our website, but just in case somebody didn't see that information, can you all just take 1 minute each and just let us know before we let you go? So, Kevin.
www.kevinfor67.com is my website. I need people to invest in this race. I need boots on the ground. I need people to text. I need people to make calls and phone bank. I need all of it. It's a doable thing, but I have 60,000 at least people that I need to reach in my district, and I need to reach them 4 to 5 times. So we've got a big job ahead of us, but it's very, very doable. And I trust that we'll make it, especially with your help. We'll make it happen. Cam's right. Don't piss off the mamas.
Oh yeah, that's right. And also, don't worry, guys. We got your back. We're going to help you as much as we can, and help you with some texting and some graphics and some other things. So we're definitely there for you all. All right.
Fantastic. I appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah. Well, me too. Me too. I'm counting on you all. Brittany.
Yes. Well, first off, thank you, Nancy and MAGA the Good. Like, you guys, what you guys are doing is so instrumental in everyone's success. I actually went back to work after convention, and I was telling my supervisor about this organization, and she was just like, "How do I join? Brittany, what do I do? Tell me the information. I need to sign up because I can't. And so she was really excited, and I gave her the information. So hopefully she's joined by now. But for this campaign in particular, for Brittany for House 65, you can go to my website. You can sign up to be a volunteer. You can certainly plant a seed, which as candidates, all of us, we definitely need all the seeds planted as much as possible. But if you cannot, we are really, really, what's going to get us across the finish line is getting in contact with the voters. So if you can come out to a block walk, if we can organize all the Mothers Against Greg Abbott across the state of Texas and get out to some of our block walks, oh my goodness, the amount of doors we can hit all at one time. That's what we really need. We need that support. We need to be seen across all of our districts, because all 3 of us, we have to reach across the aisle and bring people over. And with y'all's help, we can certainly do that. Every one of us has an opportunity, a great opportunity to win this race. And with y'all support, with either planting a seed or actually warm bodies on the ground, texting, calling, it is super beneficial. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Coach Cam, what can we do to help you, sir?
Yeah, so it's 3 things, right? So it's time. If you have the time to make an investment, to canvas, to block walk, to phone bank. It's treasure if you have, $1, a few dollars to plant a seed into the campaign. But really, it's talent, right? So again, it's the one unique thing. And again, I'm a coach, right? So the one unique thing that I understand is the sentinel impact of moms, right? So have that conversation in that group chat from the soccer team that you played with 2 years ago, or have the group chat with the lacrosse team that you were with a couple of years ago, or the church group that you were with a couple of years ago. The culture starts and ends with parents, with mothers, period. That's it. Our culture starts and ends with mothers. And so if you have the time to canvas and door knock to phone bank, great. If you have the additional resources to plant a seed into our campaigns, great. The one thing that I'll ask everybody here is just go back through your email list, go back through your phone bank list, go back through your WhatsApp list, go back through your Facebook groups, and just plant that seed, because that's how you see exponential growth. That's how MAGA the Good was able to grow, north of 40,000 in a handful of months, right? It's moms having those conversations, because believe it or not, whether any coach will tell you or not, when you tick a mom off, you see change. And Greg Abbott has effectively taken a handful of moms off. And that's why we're here.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, thank you all. I'm going to let you all go. And thank you all so much for your time. When this gets posted onto Facebook, we'll post everybody's links again underneath the thread. We are so glad that you all joined us here today. I cannot thank you enough. I wish that I could vote for you all. I wish I could. But I'm going to do the next best thing, and that is really encourage everyone in our group to go out and support you and really provide you with some tools that will hopefully help your campaign. So thank you all so much. I wish you all to have a great evening, and we will see you all soon. See you on the campaign trail. Bye.